The NFL just made a surprising move that has everyone talking, and Falcons fans, you'll want to pay close attention. I'm here to fill you in on all the details, so don't forget to hit that like button. Let's dive in. Imagine being punished for something, losing a draft pick, and paying fines, only to find out a year later that what you did is now perfectly fine. That's exactly what happened to the Atlanta Falcons. If you're not excited yet, just wait. By the end of this, you will be. Here's the scoop. The NFL has introduced a new rule that allows teams to talk directly to players, not just their agents, during the legal tampering period. This might sound familiar because it's the same thing that got the Falcons in trouble last year when they were accused of contacting Kirk Cousins, Darnell Mooney, and Charlie Werner inappropriately. Their punishment? A big fine and the loss of a fifth-round draft pick. Now fast forward to today, and suddenly, it's all okay. Teams can now talk to up to 5 players directly during the 2-day window before free agency starts. How does that make sense? Just a year ago, the Falcons were punished for this, and now it's allowed? It feels like the NFL is saying, "Oops, we were a bit too tough. Let's move on." But what about that lost draft pick? What about the competitive edge they took away from the Falcons? If the rules have changed, shouldn't the league think about giving back the draft pick they took away? It's like punishing someone for something that wasn't even a crime yet, only to make it legal later. This is not just frustrating, it shows a clear inconsistency from the NFL, and it directly affects the Falcons. They were penalized for something that every other team can now do without any consequences. And the timing? It couldn't be worse. With the draft coming up soon, that missing fifth-round pick still hurts, especially for a team that doesn't have many picks this year. Now let's talk about another rule change that could really impact the game, the kickoff return adjustments. Last season, the league moved touchbacks from the 25-yard line to the 30. Now they're moving it again to the 35. This might seem like a small change, but it's actually a big deal, especially for teams like the Falcons. Why? Because Atlanta's special teams strategy relied on kicking the ball deep into the end zone, ensuring touchbacks and giving opponents the ball at the 30. But now, with the new rule, any kick that results in a touchback puts the ball at the 35, giving the receiving team even better field position. This completely changes the game for teams that use this strategy, forcing them to rethink their kickoff approach. So what does this mean for the Falcons? Their special teams unit was already average when it came to touchbacks. Unlike teams like the Saints or Commanders, who tried to kick short to force returns, Atlanta was happy to kick it deep. Now that might not be the best choice anymore. The coaching staff will have to rethink their strategy. Should they risk more returns by trying to pin teams inside the 25, or stick with touchbacks and give up valuable field position at the 35? Now let's talk about the overtime rule change. From now on, both teams will get a chance to have the ball in overtime, even if the first team scores a touchdown. This is a fairer approach, but it also takes away some of the advantage of winning the coin toss. If your team usually did well in overtime by getting the ball first and ending the game quickly, this new rule makes that a lot tougher. So how does this affect the Falcons? Honestly, this change might not impact them as much as the others. The Falcons haven't been in many exciting overtime games lately, and there's no strong evidence that they benefited from the old rules. Still, it's something to keep in mind, especially in those close, late-season games where one drive can mean the difference between making the playoffs or going home early. Speaking of game-changing rules, let's discuss replay assist. This is a big deal because it allows officials to step in and correct certain penalties after they've already been called. But before you get too excited, let's clarify what this means. Officials can only reverse flags on 5 specific types of calls: hits on defenseless players, face masks, horse collar tackles, tripping, and running into or roughing the kicker. Notice anything missing? That's right. There are no adjustments for roughing the passer. So even if there's a totally unfair roughing the passer call, replay assist can't step in to fix it. If you were hoping this rule change would help prevent those questionable flags that have hurt teams in the past, you might be disappointed. Now, how does this affect the Falcons? Well, it could help in situations where they've been hurt by bad calls, especially with face masks or horse collar tackles. But the biggest missed opportunity here is that replay assist can't correct no calls. If a clear penalty is missed, the officials can't do anything about it afterward. That's a frustrating reality for a league that has seen its fair share of officiating controversies. Finally, let's talk about the introduction of Hawkeye technology for ball spotting. If you've ever watched a tennis match, you know how precise this system is. Now, the NFL will use it to determine the exact placement of the ball during games. This means no more relying on the chain gang to measure first downs manually. For teams like the Falcons, this is a positive change. No more questionable spots or relying on the human eye to decide where the ball should be placed. Everything will be done with precision. Let's be honest. If this system had been in place in previous seasons, there are probably a few key third down and fourth down situations that could have turned out differently for Atlanta. So there you have it. Some of the biggest rule changes coming to the NFL and how they impact the Falcons. But let's get back to the biggest question. Should the Falcons get their 5th-round draft pick back? It's hard to argue against it when you think about how unfair this situation is. Atlanta was punished for something that is now completely legal. It's almost laughable. I want to hear from you. Do you think the NFL should return the Falcons' lost draft pick? Or is this just another case of the league changing the rules whenever they want? Share your thoughts in the comments. And let's not forget, this isn't the first time the NFL has hit Atlanta with questionable punishments. Remember the 2016 artificial crowd noise scandal? The Falcons lost a draft pick and paid fines, yet today, teams pump artificial noise into their stadiums every week without facing any consequences. Now, the same thing is happening with the tampering rule. While losing a 5th-round pick might not seem huge, every draft selection counts when you're rebuilding. Just look at the impact players like Tyreek Hill and Richard Sherman have had in the league. Atlanta could have found a hidden gem in that round, but now that chance is gone, and even worse, the league isn't acknowledging how unfair this is. There's been no discussion, no reconsideration, just silence. Now let's talk about how these new rules will affect the game on the field. The kickoff change directly impacts Cordarrelle Patterson, one of the best returners in NFL history. With touchbacks now starting at the 35-yard line, teams will likely avoid kicking to him altogether, which limits his chances to change the game with a big return. This also puts pressure on Younghoe Koo and the special teams unit to rethink their strategy. Should they keep kicking deep or try shorter kicks and risk giving up big returns? The new replay assist rule is another mixed bag. It allows officials to correct certain penalties, but it won't fix the biggest problems, like roughing the passer calls. Falcons fans know all too well how bad officiating can swing a game, yet the NFL has conveniently left out some of the most controversial calls from review. And what about the overtime rule? Sure, both teams now get a chance to possess the ball, but will that really make the game better? For a team like Atlanta, which has struggled to finish games, this might just complicate things even more. So here's the big question. Should the NFL return Atlanta's lost draft pick? Should teams be punished for something that's now legal? I want to hear your thoughts. Drop your comments below, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Go Falcons!